This is Musings and Counsel from London Baker Law with Debbie London Baker.
When it comes down, you're planning for, after you pass away, you're planning for your kids, your wife, and sometimes it's tough, and you get right in the middle of it.
I get right in the middle of it. It's the paper. I really do hate the paperwork, but the people are so fascinating, and the things they bring. You said your wife and your kids, but you and Sophia have pets. So I mean, you've probably mentioned whether either one of you have children, but you have pets. So and then how do you provide for them? And that's a big concern for people. Like, who's going to take care of my animals after I go? The other thing is, and Florida, not all states do, but Florida allows pet trusts, kind of like Leona Helmsley tried to set up years ago with like $22 million for 2 dogs. Maybe a little extravagant, but pet trusts. And that's important to people. And you and I talked about this before, that for me, what I've come to learn is, yes, it's important to have all of those things in place, and the documents that exist to help you while you're living, like your power of attorney and your healthcare surrogate, are equally essential, because things happen. You need somebody to get into a bank account and you haven't given anybody the right, or you need somebody to speak to a doctor and you haven't given anybody the right, and you don't have a spouse, because spouses can, you may not want your spouse to speak for you, but in the world of the law, if you have a spouse, they can speak. But if you're single, if you and Sophia are not married, unless you've given each of you a document to speak to the doctors, somebody from your family can come in and say they have no right, and legally, they're correct. So it's. And some of the conversations
I
are
was
difficult.
thinking about you a couple of weeks ago, because I too am a believer, and greatest thing that ever happened in my life. I found out that one of the people I serve with at Calvary Chapel passed away and left all of his real estate to the church.
Wow.
And I was thinking about, now, from what I understand, the kids are really upset. They're mad. And I'm sure that gets tough when you get in a position like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets tough. Yeah. And if that's what you've done, then that's what you've done. And the idea is that you either told your children that that's what you're going to do, or you certainly haven't appointed them to execute your final wishes. And that's always an issue. But yeah,
my question to you, Debbie, is how often, I didn't even know I was going to go into this, but how often do you, because I look at you, you're very intelligent, you understand the world. When a new client comes to you and says, I want to leave everything to the church, or whatever it could be, do you ever get involved and say, are you sure this is what you want to do? Let me give you some other ideas. Is that part of your job?
As a counselor, yes. Okay. I've seen it more when people come and say they want to disinherit somebody.
Okay. Mostly the kids? Their children?
Mostly kids. And kids and their kids. It's not only like disinheriting your son, but it's disinheriting any of his progeny, which I think is reasonably extreme, especially if the progeny don't even exist anymore. So don't exist yet, so you don't even know. But the thing I've learned is, yes, it's my role to counsel about it. It's also my job as an attorney to be sure that I've asked them for some kind of rationale for that, to protect me if somebody comes back and says, my dad disinherited me and I don't know why. And some people have put in their wills, I am disinheriting, my daughter. For all the Susans out there, I apologize. I'm disinheriting my daughter Susan for reasons that she understands. So I can ask somebody to give me some information, but I can't force them. But I need to be on record that I've asked. In terms of something like charities, giving property to charities or something like that, I've got one woman now, but she doesn't have any children. She's leaving all of her estate to 3 charities. And she set her home and her vehicles and all her property, but she's got an IRA and she's got some bank accounts, and those are going to people. Those are going to individuals. So the person who left all his real property to the church may have left things beneficiary designated where family wasn't necessarily cut out, but nobody would know about it because that's just going with a death certificate and the financial institution just writes checks.
This has been Musings and Counsel from London Baker Law. Learn more at londonbakerlaw.com. Thanks for listening.